Book 4, Chapter 8 of the Antiquities of the Jews is one of the longest and most important chapters in this book. Because of its length, the chapter is being presented in parts. In this first portion, covering verses 1 through 14, Moses gathers the people of Israel near the Jordan and delivers his final exhortation. He reminds them that obedience to God's laws is the true source of blessing, stability, and prosperity, and he warns them of the consequences that will follow disobedience. Moses also begins to set forth the political and religious foundations of Israel's constitution, emphasizing the unity of God, the unity of worship, and the importance of continual remembrance of God's works. Chapter 8. When 40 years were completed, within 30 days, Moses gathered the congregation together near Jordan, where the city of Bela now stands, a place full of palm trees. And all the people being come together, he spake thus to them. 2. O you Israelites and fellow soldiers, who have been partners with me in this long and uneasy journey, since it is now the will of God, and the course of old age, at 120, requires it that I should depart out of this life. And since God has forbidden me to be a patron or an assistant to you in what remains to be done beyond Jordan, I thought it reasonable not to leave off my endeavors even now for your happiness, but to do my utmost to procure for you the eternal enjoyment of good things, and a memorial for myself, when you shall be in the fruition of great plenty and prosperity. Come, therefore, let me suggest to you by what means you may be happy, and may leave an eternal prosperous possession thereof to your children after you, and then let me thus go out of the world. And I cannot but deserve to be believed by you, both on account of the great things I have already done for you, and because, when souls are about to leave the body, they speak with the sincerest freedom. O children of Israel, there is but one source of happiness for all mankind, the favor of God. For he alone is able to give good things to those that deserve them, and to deprive those of them that sin against him. Towards whom, if you behave yourselves according to his will, and according to what I, who well understand his mind, do exhort you to, you will both be esteemed blessed, and will be admired by all men, and will never come into misfortunes, nor cease to be happy. You will then preserve the possession of the good things you already have, and will quickly obtain those that you are at present in want of. Only do you be obedient to those whom God would have you to follow, nor do you prefer any other constitution of government before the laws now given you. Neither do you disregard that way of divine worship which you now have, nor change it for any other form. And if you do this, you will be the most courageous of all men, in undergoing the fatigues of war, and will not be easily conquered by any of your enemies. For while God is present with you to assist you, it is to be expected that you will be able to despise the opposition of all mankind, and great rewards of virtue are proposed for you if you preserve that virtue through your whole lives. Virtue itself is indeed the principal and the first reward, and after that it bestows abundance of others, so that your exercise of virtue towards other men will make your own lives happy, and render you more glorious than foreigners can be, and procure you an undisputed reputation with posterity. These blessings you will be able to obtain, in case you hearken to and observe those laws which by divine revelation I have ordained for you, that is, in case you withal meditate upon the wisdom that is in them. I am going from you myself, rejoicing in the good things you enjoy, and I recommend you to the wise conduct of your law, to the becoming order of your polity, and to the virtues of your commanders, who will take care of what is for your advantage. And that God, who has been till now your leader, and by whose good will I have myself been useful to you, will not put a period now to his providence over you. But as long as you desire to have him your protector in your pursuits after virtue, so long will you enjoy his care over you. Your high priest also Eleazar, as well as Joshua with the senate and chief of your tribes, will go before you, and suggest the best advices to you, by following which advices you will continue to be happy. To whom do you give ear without reluctance, as sensible that all such as know well how to be governed will also know how to govern, if they be promoted to that authority themselves. And do not you esteem liberty to consist in opposing such directions as your governors think fit to give you for your practice, as at present indeed you place your liberty in nothing else but abusing your benefactors. Which error, if you can avoid for the time to come, your affairs will be in a better condition than they have hitherto been. Nor do you ever indulge such a degree of passion in these matters, as you have oftentimes done when you have been very angry at me. For you know that I have been oftener in danger of death from you than from our enemies. What I now put you in mind of is not done in order to reproach you, for I do not think it proper, now I'm going out of the world, to bring this to your remembrance, in order to leave you offended at me, since, at the time when I underwent those hardships from you, I was not angry at you. But I do it in order to make you wiser hereafter, and to teach you that this will be for your security. I mean, that you never be injurious to those that preside over you, even when you are become rich, as you will be to a great degree when you have passed over Jordan, and are in possession of the land of Canaan. Since, when you shall have once proceeded so far by your wealth, as to a contempt and disregard of virtue, you will also forfeit the favor of God. And when you have made him your enemy, you will be beaten in war, and will have the land which you possess taken away again from you by your enemies, and this with great reproaches upon your conduct. You will be scattered over the whole world, and will as slaves entirely fill both sea and land. And when once you have had the experience of what I now say, you will repent and remember the laws you have broken when it is too late. Whence I would advise you, if you intend to preserve these laws, to leave none of your enemies alive when you have conquered them, but to look upon it as for your advantage to destroy them all, lest if you permit them to live, you taste of their manners, and thereby corrupt your own proper institutions. I also do further exhort you to overthrow their altars and their groves, and whatsoever temples they have among them, and to burn all such, their nation, and their very memory with fire, for by this means alone the safety of your own happy constitution can be firmly secured to you. And in order to prevent your ignorance of virtue, and the degeneracy of your nature into vice, I have also ordained you laws, by divine suggestion, and a form of government, which are so good, that if you regularly observe them, you will be esteemed of all men the most happy. 3. When he had spoken thus, he gave them the laws and the constitution of government written in a book, upon which the people fell into tears, and appeared already touched with the sense that they should have a great want of their conductor, because they remembered what a number of dangers he had passed through, and what care he had taken of their preservation. They desponded about what would come upon them after he was dead, and thought they should never have another governor like him, and feared that God would then take less care of them when Moses was gone, who used to intercede for them. They also repented of what they had said to him in the wilderness when they were angry, and were in grief on those accounts, insomuch that the whole body of the people fell into tears with such bitterness, that it was past the power of words to comfort them in their affliction. However, Moses gave them some consolation, and by calling them off the thought how worthy he was of their weeping for him, he exhorted them to keep to that form of government he had given them, and then the congregation was dissolved at that time. Accordingly, I shall now first describe this form of government which was agreeable to the dignity and virtue of Moses, and shall thereby inform those that read these antiquities what our original settlements were, and shall then proceed to the remaining histories. Now those settlements are all still in writing, as he left them, and we shall add nothing by way of ornament, nor anything besides what Moses left us. Only we shall so far innovate as to digest the several kinds of laws into a regular system, for they were by him left in writing as they were accidentally scattered in their delivery, and as he upon inquiry had learned them of God. On which account I have thought it necessary to premise this observation beforehand, lest any of my own countrymen should blame me as having been guilty of an offense herein. Now, part of our Constitution will include the laws that belong to our political state. As for those laws which Moses left concerning our common conversation and intercourse one with another, I have reserved that for a discourse concerning our manner of life and the occasions of those laws, which I propose to myself, with God's assistance, to write after I have finished the work I am now upon. 5. When you have possessed yourselves of the land of Canaan, and have leisure to enjoy the good things of it, and when you have afterward determined to build cities, if you will do what is pleasing to God, you will have a secure state of happiness. Let there be then one city of the land of Canaan, and this situate in the most agreeable place for its goodness, and very eminent in itself, and let it be that which God shall choose for himself by prophetic revelation. Let there also be one temple therein, and one altar, not reared of hewn stones, but of such as you gather together at random, which stones, when they are whited over with mortar, will have a handsome appearance, and be beautiful to the sight. Let the ascent to it be not by steps, but by an acclivity of raised earth. And let there be neither an altar nor a temple in any other city. For God is but one, and the nation of the Hebrews is but one. 6. He that blasphemeth God, let him be stoned, and let him hang upon a tree all that day, and then let him be buried in an ignominious and obscure manner. 7. Let those that live as remote as the bounds of the land which the Hebrews shall possess, come to that city where the temple shall be, and this 3 times in a year, that they may give thanks to God for his former benefits, and may entreat him for those they shall want hereafter. And let them, by this means, maintain a friendly correspondence with one another by such meetings and feastings together. For it is a good thing for those that are of the same stock and under the same institution of laws, not to be unacquainted with each other, which acquaintance will be maintained by thus conversing together, and by seeing and talking with one another, and so renewing the memorials of this union. For if they do not thus converse together continually, they will appear like mere strangers to one another. 8. Let there be taken out of your fruits 1/10, besides that which you have allotted to give to the priests and Levites. This you may indeed sell in the country, but it is to be used in those feasts and sacrifices that are to be celebrated in the holy city. For it is fit that you should enjoy those fruits of the earth which God gives you to possess, so as may be to the honor of the donor. 9. You are not to offer sacrifices out of the hire of a woman who is a harlot, for the deity is not pleased with anything that arises from such abuses of nature, of which sort none can be worse than this prostitution of the body. In like manner no one may take the price of the covering of a bitch, either of one that is used in hunting or in keeping of sheep, and thence sacrifice to God. 10. Let no one blaspheme those gods which other cities esteem such, nor may anyone steal what belongs to strange temples, nor take away the gifts that are dedicated to any god. 11. Let not any one of you wear a garment made of woolen and linen, for that is appointed to be for the priests alone. 12. When the multitude are assembled together unto the holy city for sacrificing every 7th year at the Feast of Tabernacles, let the high priest stand upon a high desk, whence he may be heard, and let him read the laws to all the people. And let neither the women nor the children be hindered from hearing, no, nor the servants neither. For it is a good thing that those laws should be engraven in their souls and preserved in their memories, that so it may not be possible to blot them out. For by this means they will not be guilty of sin, when they cannot plead ignorance of what the laws have enjoined them. The laws also will have a greater authority among them, as foretelling what they will suffer if they break them, and imprinting in their souls by this hearing what they command them to do, that so there may always be within their minds that intention of the laws which they have despised and broken, and have thereby been the causes of their own mischief. Let the children also learn the laws, as is the first thing they are taught, which will be the best thing they can be taught, and will be the cause of their future felicity. 13. Let everyone commemorate before God the benefits which he bestowed upon them at their deliverance out of the land of Egypt, and this twice every day, both when the day begins and when the hour of sleep comes on, gratitude being in its own nature a just thing, and serving not only by way of return for past, but also by way of invitation of future favors. They are also to inscribe the principal blessings they have received from God upon their doors, and show the same remembrance of them upon their arms, as also they are to bear on their forehead and their arm those wonders which declare the power of God and his good will towards them, that God's readiness to bless them may appear everywhere conspicuous about them. 14. Let there be 7 men to judge in every city, and these such as have been before most zealous in the exercise of virtue and righteousness. Let every judge have 2 officers allotted him out of the tribe of Levi. Let those that are chosen to judge in the several cities be had in great honor, and let none be permitted to revile any others when these are present, nor to carry themselves in an insolent manner to them, it being natural that reverence towards those in high offices among men should procure men's fear and reverence towards God. Let those that judge be permitted to determine according as they think to be right, unless anyone can show that they have taken bribes to the perversion of justice, or can allege any other accusation against them, whereby it may appear that they have passed an unjust sentence. For it is not fit that causes should be openly determined out of regard to gain, or to the dignity of the suitors, but that the judges should esteem what is right before all other things. Otherwise God will by that means be despised, and esteemed inferior to those, the dread of whose power has occasioned the unjust sentence. For justice is the power of God. He therefore that gratifies those in great dignity supposes them more potent than God himself. But if these judges be unable to give a just sentence about the causes that come before them, which case is not unfrequent in human affairs, let them send the cause undetermined to the holy city, and there let the high priest, the prophet, and the Sanhedrim determine as it shall seem good to them. This concludes Book 4, Chapter 8, verses 1 through 14. Because of the length of this chapter, we are continuing in parts. Stay tuned for verses 15 through 24 as Moses proceeds to lay out further laws, judgments, and instructions for the people of Israel.